You know how there are days when you think to yourself, I have had just about enough of this job. And you start thinking about a plan B. But you're so done with being tired and stressed and unappreciated at work that you decide your plan B should be the easiest, most mindless gig you can think of. For as long as I can remember, I've always said that my fallback job, my plan B, the job I'd go and get when I've got nothing left to give, is ticket taker at the movie theater. I mean, come on, that's a pretty sweet gig, right? First, I would be in the air conditioning all summer long. Second, I figure you probably get to see movies and eat popcorn a lot, and that's pretty great. And third, I mean, talk about job security. Nothing's going to kill that industry. I mean, what could possibly happen that would, close down all the movie theaters? But the main reason that job appeals to me is because, as I see it, it requires no thought at all. Rip on your left. Rip on your left. Rip on your left. So that's my plan. When I am done with thinking and I just want to coast with the minimum amount of thought and effort possible, I'm going to tear tickets at the movie theater. In fact, the only thing that can mess up my plan is if I get a boss who insists on maximum effort and who is committed to telling me stories about why my work matters. Because those two things together won't let me coast. Those two things together will actually make me try. You see, we know that people perform at work when they believe that their work makes a difference in the lives of others. When bosses tell stories that tie the tasks and duties of someone's job to a powerful purpose that stirs the soul, people don't coast. They don't just go through the motions. In fact, I would argue that storytelling can be used to tie any job, anywhere, to a powerful purpose, even the ticket taker at the movie theater. Would you like to know how? If I were running a movie theater and I hired you to be my ticket taker, I would tell you little stories again and again that point to the one big story about why your work matters so very much. Shortly after you started working for me, I'd call you into my office and I would ask you this question. Hey, who do you know that has been married for a really long time? Now, you might cite your parents or your grandparents or maybe some neighbors. And whenever you tell me who you're thinking of, I'm going to give you an interesting piece of homework. Hey, can you do me a favor? Would you call them up and ask them about their first date and then come back and tell me as much as you can about it? Now, when you go and ask this long married couple about their first date, you're probably going to get a really sweet story filled with detailed memories of where they went and what they wore and all the feelings. And when you come back to me and pass along what you heard, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. Isn't it remarkable that they can remember so many details about a night that happened so long ago? I mean, most of us can't remember what we had for lunch yesterday. Most days that pass are destined to be forgotten, but there are a few in our lives that stand out. There are a few moments that get burned in. And guess what? Every single person walking past you while you tear tickets might be in the middle of a night they'll remember for the rest of their lives. And we get to be a part of that. Isn't that something? Now, shortly after this conversation, I'm giving you another assignment. Can you do me a favor? Go find someone in your life with children under the age of 10 and ask them 2 questions. First, when was the last time they went to a movie without the kids? And second, what kind of arrangements did they have to make to get away for a few hours? Would you then come back and tell me what they said? Now, anybody who's listening and who has kids already knows what's coming back, right? My kids are 10, 8, and 4. A kid-free night at the movies, at least before the pandemic, that's like winning the lottery. Wait, hold on. We have a sitter? This is happening? Yes! Our joy at getting away for a bit is so overpowering that we don't care at all about spending $39 for 2 small sodas and 6 crusty milk duds. I mean, with 3 kids, I'm out $50 for a sitter before even leaving the driveway, but I don't care. A real-life grown-up movie with swearing and guns and no talking animals? Take my money. And when you, my dear ticket taker, come back and tell me that story, I'm going to say, I think it's worth remembering that every person walking past you might be someone who had to arrange quite a lot just to walk into our building tonight. My job as your boss is to get you to see that your job is much more sophisticated than standing still and tearing tickets. My job is to use little stories like these to help you believe the big story, that what we do here at my movie theater is help our customers escape stress, make memories, and have fun. That's our powerful purpose. And I'm going to repeatedly try to stir your soul with little stories that prove that thesis over and over again. I'm going to point out when I see a father taking their child to their first Star Wars movie, and then I'll ask you about the first movie you remember seeing as a kid. I'm going to direct your attention to the obvious excitement of those folks who line up early in costume for the latest summer blockbuster. And I'll ask you about the movies you were most excited to see over the course of your life. I'll point out how affected and emotional our guests are after walking out of the latest Oscar-nominated tearjerker. And then I'll ask you about the most recent movie you saw that made you really feel something. Along the way, I'm going to answer any question you ask at work, not by citing policy or regulations or organizational directives, but by telling you the story of how the policy or regulation or directive impacts real people. I will find a way to connect my answer to your question to our larger cause of helping our customers escape stress, make memories, and have fun. And I'm going to do this, use these little stories to tell the big story of our purpose, because it is the only way I'm going to get you to try when you're tired, or get you to come to work when you'd rather not, or get you to, at a minimum, just bring a higher quality energy to the interactions you have with those around you. And right now, when so many are exhausted, when so many have been going at 10,000 RPMs for so long and with no end in sight, this is what they need from you, their boss, to get through the day. They need you to connect the dots. They need you to point out all the ways their work makes a difference in the lives of others. So point it out. Tell every story you can think of, big and small. That is how you become an inspirational boss and motivate employees. It's not because you tell a good story. It's because the story you tell is about how they truly make a difference. Now, from time to time on the podcast, I've made the decision to share things that I use from the stage. And what I just shared with you is a segment that I've used in keynotes and sometimes in workshops to talk about how important it is that bosses develop the skill of storytelling. And so let me bring Alyssa back in. And thank you, Alyssa, for letting me do all of that and take that much time with it. What did you hear, and why is storytelling such an important skill for bosses?
Folks, I don't, if you're not on YouTube and you didn't just see me like sit back up in my chair because I got moved by the master at work.
Stop.
No, true. I mean, this is why you are so dang good at what you do. Joe is a master storyteller. And I know you were as moved by that as I was, as impacted as I was. And that can also be intimidating because we're not you, Joe, right?
Mhm.
But you just said it at the end. Tell the stories, both big and small, because that is the connection that we all crave, that we all truly deeply desire to connect us to that higher purpose, to connect us to that higher cause. That's our commitment. That's where that grows. That's where I know that you care about me as an employee when you take the time to tell me that story. Storytelling is a magnificently powerful tool that bosses can use. You might not think that you have the stories to tell. Listen again to Joe's story. You have stories to tell too. Stories that can connect you and connect your team to that higher sense of purpose, that higher cause, and create that connection that everyone so badly needs.
Wonderfully said, my friend. And thank you for the kind words. I am humbled by your praise. Truly. Thank you for that. And here's the good news. Nobody needs to be a master storyteller to connect the dots between even the most mundane tasks and duties of someone's job and the difference they make in the lives of others. The only thing you have to do is be intentional about pointing out those stories, because those stories are there. They live in the day-to-day experiences of the people who report to you. Ask somebody, tell me about something that happened this month at work that you're really proud of. Tell me about something you did that you really believe was helpful to somebody else. And when they tell you that story, I want you to blow it up bigger. And what I mean by that is, if a member of your team stayed late to help a customer that couldn't get through the door by closing time, and they tell you that, take a moment to go a little bit bigger and ask, boy, how do you think that person felt, knowing that they didn't have to go another day with the same problem? Imagine what their sleep was like that night. Imagine the relief they must have felt when they found out you were going to squeeze them in. We can talk about the difference that people make in the lives of others as being, I squeezed in a late appointment at the end of the day, but that's not it. That was the action. The impact was the emotional relief that you created for another person. That's the story. You just have to shine a light on it. You don't need to know what the stories are. You just need to blow them up a little bit from time to time so that people can see the emotional payoff of their actions.
All hail. I'd clap if it wouldn't be assaulting to the earballs right now.
Well, we're going to keep talking
Hallelujah.
about this. And let me shout out a great book, a great resource for you to check out with regard to storytelling. Kendra Hall is a fellow professional speaker. She's written a fantastic book called Stories That Stick. And she is an expert in storytelling. And she has spent the past few years talking about the power of storytelling and why storytelling is such an important skill for us, whatever our jobs are, whatever our roles are, to develop. And so we will link to that book in the show notes for this episode over at BossBetterNowPodcast.com if you want to check that out. And we would love to know what you think. Leave a comment under this episode on our podcast webpage, BossBetterNowPodcast.com, or head over to the Boss Better Now Facebook page where you can leave comments, ask questions, suggest ideas for the show, and more.